So for those of you that weren't here when they brought in that video card, just don't pay attention to it at all, okay? What I will do, and some of the students heard this, but for those again who came after, is if you have to miss a class, rather than me sending you a list of things to read or do from what you missed, I will record the class session and I will upload it to our class YouTube channel. I just think you get more out of it seeing, especially because we do so many engaging things, we have a lot of discussions. There's so much value in hearing everybody's ideas rather than just, I said, reading something or watching a video. I just don't think it's the same. So if you know that you're going to miss a class and you want to shoot me an email, then I can arrange to record the class for you. So, okay. So no, you're not being like on a webcam somewhere on the internet. People are watching us. No, that's not what's going on here. So, but welcome back to fall semester. I'm just so excited. I'm like a little kid. I get excited the first day of school. So I'm leaving this morning, and I said to my husband, "You're gonna wish me a nice first day of school?" And he's not a morning person like I am. So, but this course, so you've all taken Management 100. This course really builds extensively and comprehensively on that course, insofar as not just building your managerial skills and your acumen, but leadership. Okay, that's a huge component of this course. So each week, each session will kind of have three parts to it. We're going to work on materials and resources relevant to just organizational behavior as a whole. So I want you to think of organizational behavior as this big pie, okay? And then leadership and culture are kind of like the filling of that pie, all right? Kind of really what makes the pie have some substance, what makes the pie good. Because without leadership and that good culture, you have a really icky pie. You just have crust. So maybe not the best analogy, but hopefully that worked for you guys. So hopefully if you haven't, and this is the other thing I also do, because I know everybody's able to get their textbooks at different times because of book advances and all that good stuff. So for the first 4 weeks of class, whatever required reading I assign from the text. If you don't have your text, don't worry. I PDF all the chapters and make them available on Moodle. So you'll see when you look at the independent work due before next week, that if you don't have your book, there is a link to the chapter that I want you to read before next week, okay? So yeah, it's just that whole textbook thing. I know, like I said, especially with where book advances and stuff are involved, you know, everybody doesn't have all their textbooks the very first day of class. Totally get that, you know, so try to, you know, to make that, you know, available to you as much as possible. So, so I want to, the way, you know, what we're going to do this morning is talk about what organizational behavior is as a management and leadership concept. And from this day forward, I want you to think of management and leadership as two separate things. Okay, and we're going to talk more about that next week. But managing and leading are very different. There are some overlap in what they are, but they're not the same thing. So think about that, okay? You can be a great manager and not necessarily be a great leader, okay? So there are very distinct differences between managing and leading. So yeah, we're going to talk about what organizational behavior is as a concept, as a framework for this course, and then teamwork, team building, and leadership. Okay. So like I said, every class is going to contain activities and so forth in those three concepts. And as the semester progresses, you're going to see how they all integrate, okay, into making you very dynamic leaders in your organizations. Dead battery situation going on. I believe so. Sometimes you just flip around. I guess not. Okay, we'll just keep doing these things then. All right. So this is what we're going to be doing today. And another thing, the session PowerPoint, whatever presentation, whatever we're going to cover every week is always available on Moodle. So usually 48 hours before, sometimes I might tweak it, but more often than not, if you want to kind of look at what we're going to be doing in any given session, you can go into Moodle for that session, and that should be the first thing you see, what our topic's going to be, and the link to the PowerPoint. Some people like to print it out to take notes and so forth. So yeah, we're going to talk about what organizational behavior is. We're going to do a little exercise to kind of give you an idea of why it's important to study organizational behavior, culture, and then we're going to get to a little deeper into some of the key elements of this course. And then we're going to form our teams for this semester. I have a couple of good videos I'd like you to watch that talk about leadership and culture. And then we're going to do a little values exercise. And I want to finish with all this, everything up to you see we have a team building exercise at the end. So I'm hoping to get through all of this by 11:15, because at 11:15 I'd like to do the team building exercise. And I'm thinking, because we have such a large group, of doing it outside. Is anybody against that? Is anybody okay doing that team building exercise outside? You don't have to like crawl on the ground and get dirty or anything. It's one of those things that you need a lot of room. I'm not scaring anybody on myself. It's fun, trust me. It's a lot of fun. Okay. So I want you to think about, people you've worked with, even now or in the past. Okay. How many are in a current role in an organization? Doesn't matter where it is. You're working. Okay, and you work with other people. Okay. So I want you to think, can you think of one that you just thought or think of now as somebody that's just really great to work with? Just try to think, and you might not have anybody that's really great to work, and that's okay. That's okay, because that's kind of part of the concept of the direction I'm going. But then conversely, can you think of one that you just could not work with this person? I mean, this person was just impossible to work with. I see some heads nodding up. Yeah, I've got that person. Okay. So now that you've got these two images in your head, I want you to think, okay, why do you think this person, and let's think about the person that's really good to work with. Why do you think this person is so great to work with? Anybody? Anybody at all?
They're good communicators.
They're good communicators. Okay. Anybody else?
Proactive.
Proactive, okay. Actually, give me something about proactive. So what's an example of something he or she did that showed that they were proactive?
So in like a certain situation when something went wrong, instead of like sitting down and making it worse, they got up and help solve or produce solutions that can help.
Okay.
The situation.
So the follow-up question I have to that is it okay if I ask where you work?
Yeah.
Where?
I work at my financial teller.
Oh, okay, okay. So would you say that you work in an environment where leadership empowers you to solve problems on your own?
Yeah.
Okay, hold that thought. And then good communicator. So give me an example.
So this isn't a current job, but I'm a server, and like if you have a big party, you usually take it with 2 servers. So having key communication throughout the guests' dinner service is key.
Oh, absolutely. I
Because
couldn't
if
agree
you're
more.
not talking, then things will go wrong, and
Okay.
you'll do things multiple times.
Is this person, have they been working in this position for a while for this company?
Yes.
Okay, hold that thought too. We're going somewhere with it. Anybody else want to share an experience with a coworker they really got along good with? I know when we get to the bad coworker, every hand goes up. So
Being attentive.
being attentive. Okay, give me an example.
So I work for the Boys and Girls Club, so with children, and just being aware at all times of what the children are doing, and also being aware of your actions around them. And so some of my coworkers are really good at doing that, and other ones
All right, okay. Would you say that more of your coworkers are good at it than not? Would you think, do you have more coworkers who are attentive than not attentive?
have more that's not attentive.
Oh, okay, interesting, okay. Now for your coworkers, and you may not know this and that's okay, have they been with the Boys and Girls Club for a while, or do you have a lot of people that come and go?
A lot of them are parents during the school day.
Oh, so they're volunteers?
No.
Oh, they're paid, okay.
They're paid people, but
Okay.
during the school day, they're paras. And then a lot of them, they work for the Boys and Girls Club a couple of years in different locations.
Okay,
But
All
not
right.
at this location.
okay. And that's interesting too, so they've come from different environments even though under the same organization, okay. and that's important. Anybody else? Okay. Now, somebody want to share an experience with a bad coworker? Ashley.
I work in a hospital,
Okay.
and there's a lot that goes on. We had 15 patients, and I had one day of training, came back in the next day, and the girl's like, "Think your swim time, there you go."
Oh, wow, you don't want to do that in that kind of a Gosh. You're not on the cardiac floor at St. Luke's, I hope.
I surprisingly stepped down cardiac ICU.
Oh, okay, because my dad spends a lot of time in the cardiac unit.
So, but no, I'm not locally to here. I commute.
That was just a joke, though. It's like, I just don't want that nursing team, no.
No, it's just, you don't know what to expect until you're in that situation, and she felt with her right there still stepping me through it, that I wouldn't know what to do in an emergency. I wouldn't know what the nurse is asking of me, because there
Okay.
was so much that went in with the job, as far as like doing different type of scans and EKGs and everything I was trained on. So she kind of did it in the wrong way, but I understood where she was going with it.
Okay. But did it make you, did you feel comfortable in your role from the get-go?
Oh, no.
Okay.
This is the first
And
time.
do you feel that contributed to like a level of anxiety and just like,
I did. I had a moment of panic at
Okay.
the nurse's station, and the problem is it was the nurse's station's in the middle, and the not residents, but patients' rooms are all around, so anyone can see you. And
Yeah.
here I am like, oh my gosh, like where do I begin? Because this girl is spitting at me from nights, the report on all these patients, and I'm like, wait, what? What's going on?
okay. So that was her style of managing. And we're going to draw some connections between all of these situations. Okay, bad coworker. Give me another one. Come on. I know you guys have them. Come on.
I have a coworker currently that is very late
Okay.
on a consistent basis, and also calls in a lot,
Oh, okay.
and it makes it very hard for everyone else to like do their jobs. Technically, I'm supposed to be like a support in a classroom for whichever teacher may have more than like 10 to 15 kids. I'm supposed to go in there, but because this individual is always late or doesn't show up, I have to cover a class that technically I'm not supposed to be with kids by myself. It's always supposed to be another person in the room, and my boss could get in trouble for that.
Mm-hmm.
For
Sure.
having me do that, and it doesn't seem like that person even cares. Or
Right.
wants to.
They lack commitment.
Mhm.
Okay, and that's an important word. So, any other bad coworkers? Come on. Riley.
I have one. So I'm a bartender, and I was like bar manager, and there was like a waitress, and she just didn't listen. And she would like take her break, and you know, if you're gonna smoke a cigarette, you know, go to the bath. And she would go to the front, and I was like, hey, you know, you need to go to the bath because you have tables. She would continue to go to the front, and then she wore her work shirt out front, smoking a cigarette, and like wearing her like apron and wearing the iPad on her back, and it was just like a continuously like disrespect. Like, no.
She didn't care how she was presenting herself
Or
herself,
the
or the
place,
business.
Or yeah, it's just dirty.
Yeah, because she was representing the business, but she didn't care. No.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Any other? Michelle.
People that bring in their home life, whether it's positive or negative.
Oh,
but
yes.
Also people that just are negative about everything.
Yeah, that can really, I mean, you know, Debbie Downers and Killjoys, we call them. Yeah, it's like, that can really just bring you down. Like, you can be in the best mood and work with somebody like oh, God. Okay, so the connection between all these, and a lot of times people don't realize this, especially if you're new in an organization. But and the other thing, aside from thinking about the difference between managing and leading from this day forward too, I want you to start to look at management and leadership from an employee perspective and a manager's perspective. Because the more that you look at an organization from the employee perspective, the better the leader you actually become. And that's kind of like exercising that empathy thing. But maintaining those two perspectives actually will help you become a better manager and leader. But what's interesting, and people really don't make this connection, is that more often than not, whether it's a good employee to work with, a good coworker, a high-performing employee, or like some of the ones that Riley and Dan and Michelle described, that just don't care, it's usually a product of culture. Okay. So I want you to think about, and that really applies almost everywhere, because culture, I mean, if you think about what a culture is, it's a group of people that have a common set of characteristics. A family has its own little subculture. This classroom is going to develop a culture of its own. Okay, we're going to find commonalities and shared characteristics. So a culture is going to develop in good or bad, hopefully good. If I'm doing my job right, we'll have a really great culture in this organization. But that contributes directly to two things. And when you look at the model of organizational behavior, performance and commitment are the two main outcomes of that big model, and we'll look at it in a second. So in Alejandra's case, it sounds like they have pretty good leadership there. Would you agree? Would you think would you say, for the most part, the people that you work with are high performing and pretty committed? Okay, that's a product of leadership. Okay, not just good management. More importantly, sounds like there's really great leadership where Alejandra works, okay? Because that great leadership that builds the great culture and communication and teamwork, the outcome is high-performing employees and very committed employees. Okay, so we gotta keep trying to do that. Okay, so I can move back. Now, conversely, the people that don't care or are not training employees properly, making sure they're onboarding. I've ever heard the term onboarding. Really good organizations, when they have a new employee, have a really excellent onboarding process. Now, I'll give you an example of that. Two examples, actually. One in a bigger company and one in a smaller company. How many of you are familiar with or eaten at a Bartolotta restaurant? I know the Bartolotta group. Okay. And I'll try to bring Joe Bartolotta in to talk. He's spoken to my 221 students before. But it's an example of really great organizational culture. Because what the Bartolotta restaurants do, has anybody here ever worked for a Bartolotta restaurant? It's a great organization to work for. And if you go to their website, very seldom they have openings because people stay there. But their onboarding process includes, so let's say Vanessa, she gets hired for a hostess at the Harbor House restaurant down by the lake. Okay, but she's going to hostess. However, before she can even start in that role, what they do is they have you tend bar, they have you wash dishes, they have you clean, they have you run a register, they have you work in all the other roles, and then train you extensively in your role before they just like throw it at you. Right? Like, then that's how you felt. Ashley was like, just sink or swim. Isn't that what you said? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's not really good leadership. Sink or swim. Okay. That would be like me saying, here, read that. Sink or swim. I'm out of here. So, yeah, you really wouldn't learn very much, would you? So, but that's a really unbelievably great and successful onboarding process. Because not only do you step into your official role feeling like you can do it, but by having employees work in every other role besides their own first, what do you think that does?
You develop compassion and understanding for the other positions. So you're better equipped with the customers. So say the kitchen is delayed, you understand, well, the dishwashers, they have to clean the plates and stuff like that. So if you worked in that position and been around those individuals, you already know how that area flows, so it helps you better flow in your area.
Right. What else could it do? Think about that. If somebody who didn't do your job but you worked with them knew what was all involved in your job, what do you think that would do in the workplace?
I mean, if they need
That's what you turn your card so I can see. It is Leah. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Like say they need assistance in another area, you can help out because you've been trained to do that as well?
Absolutely. I mean, you think about how the workflow would be much smoother if you could easily shift people around. What else would it do? Something really, really important.
It would make, like when you were working, you're trying to make the last work for yourself and for the other person, so it makes work something that you both like and enjoy and work together.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about how much better your relationships are with your coworkers if you really know what they do and have a deep understanding. I think if you knew what was happening in the back of the house in the restaurant and how hard they work back there, you would have much more respect for it. And you wouldn't get so mad at the kitchen when they get backed up when it's busy, or mad at the dishwashers because you know just how, and conversely, a dishwasher that tried to wait tables, I mean, it really goes a long way towards developing mutual respect. Okay. Now, conversely, I should say conversely, but in a bigger picture scale, and this is difficult with multinational organizations, but the Hilton Group, my youngest son works for the Hilton Group of hotels, and his first 6 weeks, they put him in a front desk position. And that's so important because one of the things that happens when you get into management, leadership higher up is you kind of get disconnected from your customer, and you kind of get disconnected from what's really going on. So having that perspective, dealing with customers on a very, and really if you think about it, in any frontline position, whether it's in a hotel or a restaurant or a bank, you're the one that's dealing with, interfacing with the customer every day. You're the one that's out there seeing everything that's going on. So you guys are a wealth of knowledge to management and leadership. And every good organization will recognize that. Okay? And unfortunately, there's just a fraction of organizations, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, that really recognize that there's a link between how you're treating your people and being successful. So, and this is the technical definition from your textbook of what organizational behavior is. Field of study devoted to understanding, explaining, and ultimately improving attitudes and behaviors of individuals and groups and organizations. Okay. But the two bullets I always like to add, because it's just so essential, is that effective leadership is such a huge part of this. And we're going to do like a little mini leadership workshop halfway through the semester to demonstrate, and help you to better develop your leadership skills and really understand what leadership is. Because a lot of people have a misconception about what leadership is. In fact, how many of you think that in order to be a good leader, you have to be really outgoing? Raise your hand. Okay, I see a lot of hands. Okay. So you're going to come to realize good leadership has nothing to do with that. But it's all about positively, again, impacting those outcomes, the performance and the commitment. So we're going to be referring to this model a lot. This is in your book. This is called the integrative model of organizational behavior. But I always refer to it as the OB model. So when I say OB model, this is what I'm talking about. Okay. So in looking at this, you'll see the outcomes. What you're striving for as leaders in your organization is these two outcomes. Okay? All of this happening here, hopefully, will create really, really high-performing employees who are really committed. Really, really, really committed. So we're going to be kind of focusing every week. We're going to talk about teamwork and leadership, but all in an effort to impact these 5 things, these individual mechanisms. Okay, so as a good leader in an organization, if you're building good teams, building good communication, supporting a great culture, you're going to impact these 5 mechanisms in a very, very strong way, and you're going to have high-performing employees who are very committed to you. Okay. So that's the framework I talked about that we're going to be working within every week throughout this course, is the OB model. So here's the rule of 1/8. Okay, I'll kind of do that here too, because this is right out of the textbook, but it's so this big pizza here. I already used the pie analogy, so I can't go back to pies. So this big pizza here represents all organizations, big, small, medium. Okay. So the rule of 1/8 says that about half of all these organizations kind of see a link between people and profits, okay? So they see that there's a link between how I manage and treat my people and profits, but they don't really do anything about it. They know it's there, but nah. So half of that half, okay? So here, they do see the link between people and profits, and they kind of make an effort to do something, to affect it. So these are the companies that maybe they'll throw a really great Christmas party every year. Maybe they'll give you Fridays in summer half day off or all day off. Okay, so they'll do like little things here and there, kind of feel good things. I call them rah-rah things, or temporarily makes the whole, all the employees feel like rah-rah, my company's great, and then you go back on Monday night and the same. Okay, like temporary short-term fixes. Okay, so half of that half, so this 1/8 here. These are the companies that really get it, that really, really, really get it. They are passionate about being just great leaders and building a huge, great, wonderful culture for the employees. And these companies, their main vision and what they're driven by every day is not profits, okay? It's about a bigger mission, okay? It's about a purpose. And these are the companies that are just perennially in the top 50 companies to work for. I know that there's a list in your book. Some of the ones that are always on that list are Google, Amazon, Zappos, locally Robert W. Baird is almost always on that list. But these are companies that you want to work for. You rarely leave. Going back to my example of the Bartolotta restaurants, in the restaurant industry, it's probably the highest turnover industry there is. People don't stay at a certain restaurant or a restaurant group for very long. It's hard work, but they just don't feel the reward of it, so they move around from restaurant. The Bartolotta group has a less than 15% turnover. That's unheard of in the restaurant industry. I still have not found a hospitality group that has that low of a turnover rate. And when you see that really, really low turnover rate, the thing that tells you is that company has great leadership. People don't want to leave there. We're going to watch a video on Zappos shortly, just to kind of give you an idea of how one company builds a culture. But a few semesters ago, I had my class be on a conference call, an actual conference call. We were talking to a Zappos. First of all, who is familiar with Zappos and what they sell? Okay, they're an online shoe. Yeah. I like them because they have shoes for people with like really super tiny feet, like myself. But their customer service is insane. But what was interesting that came out of this call, when you think about low turnover or a place where people don't want to leave or a place where people really want to work, is this customer service rep said it's easier to get into Harvard than it is to get a job at Zappos. I mean, think about that. When you think about percentages and a proportion of people applying and being accepted, all things being the same, it's easier to get into Harvard. So I found that astounding, that many people want to work there. And you're going to see why in a minute. But yeah, Zappos would be in this rule of 1/8 here. Okay. Where again, not just do they really get it, they see the link between people and profits, but they comprehensively manage those 5 individual mechanisms in the middle of that OB model to produce high-performing, committed employees. In other words, in short, they have an outstanding culture. Okay. And one thing that's really, and this is the other thing that these companies get that these other companies don't get, is that having these really incredible cultures in your organization actually make you more competitive. Because it's called, what you want to strive for as a manager and leader in your organizations is creating things that are inimitable. And what that means is really difficult to imitate, okay? So if you're a clothing manufacturer, okay, you can design a dress, a really, really cool dress, but somebody else could imitate it, okay? That's something that's very imitable, okay? Something very easy to imitate. So it's really hard to compete in the clothing area because people are always making things that maybe look the same, okay? And maybe cost less, okay? how hard would it be to duplicate somebody in the organization's culture? You couldn't do it. You really couldn't. It's not something that you can just, oh, they do this. No, because it's intangible. You can't see it. It's a living, breathing thing within an organization. So these companies, that's one of the reasons that they're so competitive and so successful, is because they've built these incredible cultures. You can't imitate it because it's unique to that organization. So no, it's not like somebody can steal the secret recipe like Colonel Sanders fried chicken and run away with it. No, it's theirs and it's there. I mean, they own it. So it makes you so incredibly competitive in your industry, or, and even beyond that. So that's the rule of 1/8. Okay. So this is what companies who are all over here do. It's like, this is obviously a joke, but companies that just don't get it, Some companies think that if you just, motivate your employees and encourage them and, give them free Starbucks, you're going to have a great organization. And it takes a lot more than that. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example. I'm going to actually read this a little bit here. A great culture. Okay. So one thing that I really want you to become aware of, how many of you have ever gone to a website like Indeed.com or Glassdoor.com to research an organization? Okay, quite a few hands, okay. And we're going to do a little bit of that in an exercise a couple weeks from now. But it's really helpful to get information or research employee or prior employee perspectives on an organization. And one of the reasons that's true is because for more often than not, you go to an organization's website and they have this really cool mission statement, right? And it says, we are going to be the leader in pen manufacturing that's going to impact the world with our neat pens. But we care about people and we put them first. How many of you are familiar with the Wells Fargo scam from 1.5 years ago? Okay. So just in a nutshell, Wells Fargo, they knew that the leadership, I use that term very loosely right now, management, upper management, the C-suite people, knew that their stock price would go up if they could show that every quarter to quarter, people were just opening new accounts like crazy. So versus last quarter, we had 10,000 new accounts being opened. So they figured, again, their stock price is going to go up because people are going to see how fast they're growing, how successful they are. So all these people are going to be buying shares of the stock and keep, and which is great for people in the C-suite because they held lots of company stock. So they were seeing the stock they were holding just skyrocketing. The CEO of Wells Fargo, during this period of time, the value of his stock rose to $220 million. Okay, think about that. $220 million. Crazy. So what they were doing is they were, God bless you, they were encouraging some very unethical practices. And what they were having them do at different branches, different districts, is encouraging, in fact, somebody like you to open an account, like another checking account for a customer, without them knowing. Opening credit cards for customers without them knowing. So then they could show on their books, yes, we have all these new credit card customers. So this has been going on, and finally, the fraud was exposed. Okay. And it was just a huge, huge, huge scam. And unfortunately, the CEO was able to cash out his stock and his $220 million. Never went to jail, but he did eventually end up resigning. He did have to testify in front of Congress and everything, but nothing was ever really done about it. So it's kind of scary because you think this might happen again, okay? But Wells Fargo is the world's largest financial institution. And if you went to their website, I'll never forget this testimony, Senator Elizabeth Warren from New York, Massachusetts, I'm sorry, she was questioning Robert Stump, who was the CEO of Wells Fargo at the time, saying, on your website, your values, you're all about the customer first. The customer is the most important thing in the world to you. But you know what? You really didn't demonstrate that. You defrauded, tens of thousands of people. So the values they espoused on their website were customer first. We're all about the customer. We love the customer. We serve the customer. Those were their espoused values. But they weren't the values they demonstrated. Okay. So if you're going to research, I should say not if you, when you research the organization that you're going to work for, see when, not if, look at what their espoused values are. Okay. Again, they might say that we're people first, or we're employee-centric. Southwest Airlines, they're an employee-centric because they believe the happier the employee is, they're in here. The better employee they're going to be. Because if you're a really happy employee, aren't you going to treat customers great? I mean, it stands to reason, okay? And they demonstrate those values. But, again, look, so do some research. Use websites like Indeed.com or Glassdoor.com. I know oftentimes there's links to companies through LinkedIn. Does everybody in here have a LinkedIn profile? Okay, I don't see all the hands, but I encourage you to use it. It's a if anything, it's a fantastic networking tool. But, check that out. Are the values they're espousing the same as what they're demonstrating? Okay, so look at what prior employees have been saying versus what they say on their website. Again, the difference between espoused values and demonstrated values. Now, Zappos espouses values, again, of being employee-centric, okay, and customer-centric. And I can tell you firsthand that they are. They're extremely customer-centric. And it amazes me how well they manage their business with as good as their customer service is and the lengths they go to make sure every single customer is happy. Last year I went, my husband and I took my husband to Aruba for his retirement gift. I bought some shoes off Zappos. They got to my house maybe 4 or 5 days before we left on our trip. I tried one of the pairs of shoes on and the strap broke. I was like, ah! So I called them. I said, look, I'm leaving. What, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to FedEx these shoes back, pay extra to have them FedEx back to me in order to have them back in time. They shipped me a brand new pair and never asked for the old ones back. I had them the next day. Didn't cost me a dime. Didn't cost me a single penny, and I didn't have to send anything back. Do you think I bought again from them? Absolutely. And you think I told everybody I knew about it, like I'm telling you right now? Yeah. So think about the value. I mean, maybe it cost them a lot for that one transaction to send me a whole new pair of shoes and have me keep. But think about all the business that they might get just from that one experience I had. Plus the fact that I'm going to keep buying from them. That's just good business. Making sure that customer's happy is that's good business. So, I mean, that's all comes down again to leadership. So I want to show you this quick video of how one company, Zappos, how they look at culture and leadership. And there's a couple things in here that very first time I saw this really jumped out at me. And I'm hoping that you guys will kind of catch those too.
What if once a year your company holds a bald and blue day? If you want to show company spirit, you can either shave your hair or dye it blue. And imagine if one of the people shaving his head is your boss.
You're not nervous at all shaving the boss?
It must be special if you can hold the blade to the VO head.
Welcome to the rather wacky world of Zappos.com. It's an online shoe and merchandise company where business as usual is anything but.
I like it.
At a time when many retailers are struggling, Zappos, derived from the Spanish word for shoes, zapatos, is thriving, thanks in part to a unique company culture and its 36-year-old CEO, Tony Hsieh.
Our whole belief is that everyone's a little weird somehow, and so it's really more just a fun way of saying that we really want people's true personalities to shine in the workplace.
Tony Hsieh so believes he's learned how to create both passion and profits that he's outlined his philosophy in delivering happiness.
The book is another way to help spread the message that it's possible to actually make employees happy, make customers happy, and still make investors happy, and still have profits.
He's not kidding. Zappos is now so successful that last fall Amazon paid $1.2 billion to acquire it. Tony Hsieh, who works out of a cubicle and earns as CEO less than $37,000 a year, never imagined he would one day run a shoe store.
I'm not a shoe person at all. I used to wear one pair of shoes for 2 years until there were holes and everything was falling apart, and then buy another pair. I really miss being part of building something. So within a year I ended up joining full-time at Zappos, and I've been at Zappos ever since.
But selling shoes on the internet presented a particular challenge. People were used to trying on shoes before buying them. Purchasing online meant customers had to take a risk.
So the challenge is, how do you get customers to try out Zappos for the first time?
So Zappos began offering something very few other companies do: free shipping and free returns for up to a year. It worked. And while many companies cut costs by outsourcing their call center overseas, Zappos Center is in Las Vegas, where the operators are all members of something called the Customer Loyalty Team.
You're very welcome, Monica. Have a great day.
We view our call center as a branding opportunity. Every phone call is a branding opportunity.
Every operator is given discretion to do what it takes to make a customer happy.
Hey, you have a fabulous trip, and I don't know, look, it's the Eiffel Tower for me.
So there are no planned scripts, no time limit to phone calls, as we discovered when we called last month.
Thank you for calling Zappos. This is Christy. How can I help you?
Christy, I'm looking for a good summer shoe.
I went on and on and on for more than 20 minutes and never did buy a pair of shoes.
I do remember your phone call.
27-year-old Christy Martin was on the other end of the call and worried she had disappointed me.
Sometimes it's hard to direct people if they don't know what they want.
So you'll let someone prattle on as long as they want?
Yes, pretty much.
Do you remember which actress in this movie had the boots?
Another operator patiently worked with a customer trying to find a pair of boots she saw in a Lifetime television movie.
Is it on YouTube? Cries in the dark. I'll watch it. I'll watch it with you, and we're going to find something out here.
But Zappos isn't just about making customers happy. Hsieh is determined to make his 1,400 employees happy as well.
We want all our employees to really think of their work here not as a job or not as a career or something to build a career, but really as a calling, as something, a place where they want to be at for life.
Along with full medical insurance, there are free meals. Feel like singing? Want a pinball break? We found happy employees everywhere, even at the Kentucky warehouse, where many have what would seem to be physically exhausting and mind-numbing jobs, like shoe picker Mandy Rager, who came to Zappos 3 years ago.
A friend of mine told me about it, and she suggested that I should check it out, and I was like you, I was skeptical, and I'm like, yeah, right, no place is that great, you know, that's why they call it work, so. But then I got here and I realized, you know, you work hard, but, you know, the reward you get is greater than that.
The company is so determined to get dedicated workers that it will test their loyalty by offering them money to quit. Christy Martin, who started work right before Christmas, turned down $3,000.
Where else are you going to find a job that's as good as this, and especially in this economy, you know, a job that's going to take care of you.
That sense of security, as well as company benefits, seem to matter more than the salaries, which are on par with Zappos competitors.
I think a lot of it boils down to empowerment.
Employees at Zappos feel empowered. Stephanie Mehta is executive editor at Fortune magazine, which for 2 years running has put Zappos.com on its list of best companies to work for. But they feel respected. They feel as though they have the ability to make decisions on their own. But to an outsider, all these really happy people in one place, all willing to shave their heads for the company, it can be a little off-putting. There is a risk with having so many optimistic, like-minded people all working on the same project. And Stephanie Mehta wonders if happy employees are always a good thing for a company as it continues to grow. One does wonder if they are getting the full range of perspectives, including customer perspectives, if everybody is so cheerful. But Tony Shea is not bothered by the criticism. When you have the little Z's on people's cheeks, you could understand why people would say, ooh, it feels a little cult-like.
You mean that's not normal?
He's hoping it's only a matter of time before other companies follow his example.
You know, ultimately, we believe that it's making the world a better place.
All right, feedback. What do you guys think? What did you think about the culture at Zappos? Would you want to work there? Who would want to work there? Raise your hand. It's not for everybody. I get that. Okay, I see a lot of hands. Okay. Why would you? What were some of the things in the video that just really jumped out at you, Riley?
Full medical insurance.
Okay.
Free food.
There you go.
Pinball machine.
Haley.
The video said the CEO makes $37,000 a year.
Yeah, he only pays himself $37,000 a year.
Okay.
What does that say to you?
That he's, I mean,
Especially we live in an economy now where the disparity between the average employee and the CEO or C-suite person is bigger than it's been in history. In some cases, it's as 500 times the median worker, but anywhere between 200 to 500 times. So if you think about what you make where you work, multiply that, and just use the bottom, the 200, that's a huge disparity. Do you feel connected to somebody like that?
no.
Would you feel connected to Tony if you work with him? Do you think you'd work harder for him knowing that he's not paying himself a huge amount of money? Exactly, yeah. He doesn't think he's above everybody else. And that really, I mean, to me, I work harder for somebody like that. Any leader or manager I've ever worked for, I've always worked the hardest for the ones that you felt like they didn't think that you were better than them, you know. They made you feel connected to them, okay. Japan Airlines is another great example of incredible leadership, okay. So when you think of the CEO of an airline, I mean, you think of somebody very, very wealthy, somebody very educated, somebody's like way up there, right? And how many of you would walk through an airport and never actually think you'd actually ever see the CEO of Southwest or American? You wouldn't, right? Japan Airlines, the CEO regularly will go down, visit planes, help flight attendants clean, like take off blankets and magazines. When they had an economic downturn in the 2000s, he cut his salary to $96,000, and that's American dollars. And what's funny, in the video that I watched about it, he says, you know, my wife wasn't really happy about it, he takes the bus to work. He doesn't have an office, he sits kind of like Tony Shea does. And do you think his employees are committed to him? And the reason he took that big pay cut is because he didn't want to have to lay people off. I mean, think about that. That's incredible. That's actually kind of unheard of. Do you think obviously the CEO of Wells Fargo would never do that, but do you think Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, do you ever think that he cut his salary to save the jobs of others? I'm kind of thinking that, but that's just me. So, and actually, I wanted to show you, I'm going to pass this around. They used to actually give these away free. Okay, this is the Zappos culture book, just kind of look at it passed around. There's a digital, yeah, you used to be able to, I used to have my 221 students go online and order this because they used to give away this hard copy free, but there is an online version. And one of the things I want you to do, and it's on Moodle before next class, is to kind of go scroll through their digital culture book and just give me your observations, for good or bad, okay? That kind of culture wouldn't work everywhere. It works in a shoe place. Would that work in a manufacturing environment, like an auto plant? Probably not. There'd be a lot of chaos. Plus, it's a more structured environment, okay? But the concept of having an environment, there's a couple things in there that are really key. Empowering your employees, okay? When you feel like you're making a contribution to your company, don't you feel more connected to them? So as a leader in your organizations, what you want to do is empower your employees to make decisions. They feel important. They feel like they're making a contribution. They feel like they're of value. If you're not making your employees feel valued, they're less likely to be as committed to you. The Ritz-Carlton Group, one of the most successful hotel groups ever, okay? They empower their employees, no matter what you do, right down to if you're a maid, to spend or to incur expenses of up to $1,000 to rectify a problem, to make a customer happy. And an example of this is there was a guest who stayed at the Ritz-Carlton in Chicago, and he had left his briefcase behind in the hotel room. He was going to San Francisco. Well, what the Ritz-Carlton Group let the maid who cleaned the room do is take that briefcase, took her out to O'Hare, put her on a plane to San Francisco, took the briefcase to him, came back to Chicago. What do you think that meant to that? Do you think that guy's going to continue to stay with Ritz-Carlton? Absolutely. He's going to continue to spend $500 a night in a hotel room. But based upon that one incident, think about that, empowering. And how great it probably felt for that housekeeping individual, to be able, because he needed this briefcase. This is a big business thing he was going on. How great. Empowerment, empowering your employees to solve problems, to make decisions, to come up with ideas, to solicit ideas. Have you ever heard the term, entrepreneurship? Intrapreneurship? Okay. It's when employees within an organization create new ideas that might be new business models or products or services for an organization. And if you have, this can be extremely, extremely lucrative for an organization. If you not just allow your employees to share ideas, but take them seriously. And I know this for a fact. It's about 15 years ago, my brother was working for Kohler Company, and he came up with an idea for a different generator design, because when you go to golf tournaments and concerts, they have generators all over running power. And I honestly can't tell you what makes this generator so special. I don't have a technical mind like he does. But they took his idea and they started manufacturing it. So they opened up a whole new division based upon this one idea that my brother had. Unfortunately, they didn't, and this stays in this room because it's still in civil litigation. They stole his idea, didn't put his name on the patent, and so these things can go on, so make sure that you trust your employer. So he thought he did. But think about that. If you really take your employees' ideas seriously, promote and encourage thinking innovatively and creatively, being a problem solver. And the reason he came up with this idea is because he was always out with the customers, seeing what their needs were, seeing what problems they were having with current products, but what needs weren't being filled. So, there's something to be said for encouraging your employees to come up with solutions to problems. Because you never know what can happen. So let's take a break. You guys need a break from listening to the talk. Let's see, it's 10:30. Come back at 10:30 because we're running right on schedule here. Is that good for everybody? Yep. Okay. So make sure you total it up at the end too. Okay, I think everybody's Okay, so in addition to having diversity on teams and finding connections, establishing, identifying common values, what's really important too, probably equally important, if not the most important, is that you all have the same goals and objectives. So sharing a common vision, sharing common goals is essential. So I want you to think about, as we go into this next part, just in terms of this course, just in terms of what's going to take place in this class this semester, what do you want out of this course personally? What do you want it to do for you? Okay, just think about that for a little bit. You have to, just kind of think about that, consider it for a little while, okay? So what I want to do is anybody who your total end up being between 26 and 30. Where are you? Okay, so I want to have you come up and stand over here. And then 21 to 25. Okay, so I'll have you guys go over here. Oh, there's a lot of 21 to 25s. Okay. So I want to try and make these teams as diverse as possible. So then, okay, so, well, that's fine. So what ended up happening is, since there's just 3 of you left, is we're going to have you kind of be, we're going to use you as a point of reference for building our team. So I'm going to split you up from the get-go. So let's actually just have you come up here. Okay. And Haley, I know you said that.
I'm over here.
Oh, I'm sorry. That you need Alexis. Okay. So I'm going to have you come over here on this team, and then. Okay. That is you. I'm going to put you guys, there's 6 of you. So so have you guys together here? Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to do this in the least confusing way possible. Okay. So I have you guys come at 5 teams. So then the 5 of you and you guys are one. We'll represent. So if I could have you come over here and you come over here by Izzy. And then you two, here, over here. Okay, so these are our 5 teams. They're anchors for our 5 teams, and I'm going to split the rest of you guys up accordingly. Good. Yeah. Okay, there we go. But no, you're one by the yeah. Okay. Okay. So once you guys all make your way down this way. Should we have? Right. So we have 3 on this team right now. Okay. Actually, we have 4 on this team. So this. Okay. So I'll have you 2 join these ladies. And you 3. You're asking me to cancel. Okay. And then you next. 4 on each team plus. So you guys are good. You are a team.
We're a group of 4.
Okay. And actually you have a team. Oh no, I think I do need one from the side, and you guys are 4. So you 2, did you join these ladies? And then the rest of you. Here. So we'll have 4, 4, 4, 5, 4. And we are missing 1. So okay, so I'm going to have to put the other person who's absent, probably with one of you guys. I'll let you know. Okay, after she completes her. Okay. So actually, I could have all of those your assessment things. That would be great. So I'm going to have you guys are actually obviously going to have to reconfigure yourselves. Okay, look, I'm sorry. Can I do for the rest of the semester now? I want you guys to fit with your teams. Okay. Because everything that we're going to do, I should say everything, but so much of what we're going to do every class now is going to be collaborative in nature. Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes to reconfigure into your new groups.
We're moving here? Yeah. Ember. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I was
and
Maybe yeah, stop doing the changes.
Where are you from? Okay, these are just temporary numbers. So I'm giving you guys each a temporary team number.
It only has like the newest USB. Oh, the USB.
I've studied short-term payroll.
Because that might have.
I
have to buy a
However you want to configure your workspace, if you want to do what these guys are doing, I want you guys to be comfortable. But I gave you each a number. It's just a temporary team number. Okay? Just a temporary team number. So I'm also going to pass this sheet around. So whatever team number you are, if you could just sign your name underneath it so I can make sure that I have you grouped accurately in Moodle. And then if you pass those questionnaires forward so that I can, there's one other student who's not here, I want to make sure I put her on a diverse team. Thank you.
You want to put our names on the
No, there's a sheet going around. Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right. So, like I just mentioned, the importance of identifying core values. That is really at the heart of building an effective team. Okay. Identifying your core values and making connections amongst each other. So, just by a show of hands, would you say that the team you're on right now, the group you're with, you don't really know them all that well? You kind of know them, but maybe not well? No. No. Okay, so you guys know each other pretty well? Oh, okay. So that little self-assessment thing, really what it does is it sort of assesses, and again, not for good or bad, just to a degree of self-awareness and emotional intelligence, okay? And when I say emotional intelligence, that doesn't mean that if you had a lower score that you're like totally an emotional moron. No, that's not the case. But all of us are at a different areas of understanding ourselves, for good or bad, okay? So, and it's really important, and this is going to make more sense as we get into self-leadership and understanding, being more aware of ourselves in an effort to evolve into incredible leaders, which you all are, and I'm sure I'm all going to visit you in C-suites somewhere in the future, if you remember me, I hope, okay? So, but, it's really important, and this is from not just a textbook thing, but from my experience, that putting people together who are at different levels, I hate using the word levels, but I think you guys know what I mean, areas in their lives and development in different areas, a lot of really extraordinary things can happen. And when you learn to be open to opinions and perspectives, learning from each other is so empowering. You learn more, you will hopefully learn more from each other throughout this course than you do from me. Because the teams I've worked on throughout my life, I've learned so much from people. But you have to be open to it, okay? So just mentally commit yourself to being open to this group of ladies and listening to their ideas, whether you like their ideas or not, or whether you think, whether you are on the same side of a political fence or not. Doesn't matter, okay? Whether you're an atheist or a Catholic, doesn't matter. At least be open to their ideas and their perspectives and what they bring to the table. So we're going to do this core values exercise, okay? To help you identify, to first identify and put down on paper what your core values are, and then identify shared values. And this is going to become the cornerstone or the foundation of your team's culture from this point on. Oh, I'm sorry. And I would email this too. Don't worry. So let's spend, let's say, I want to be able to start our team building exercise at 11:15. We still have a TED Talk to watch. So by 11 o'clock, and if you guys end up needing more time, if you can come up with a list of your top 5 values, and then move to a small group discussion to identify at least 2. If you can identify 2 common values amongst your group, that would be awesome. So let's say at 11 o'clock, let's group back up. Okay.